Good morning.
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 Good morning, Christine.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you today?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you. Thank you. What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, that's where I was born.
Ah,
Yeah. I'm out in Wisconsin though now. So
big change, right?
yeah. I stayed on the East Coast for a long, long time. We've been out here for 11 years. So
Okay.
yeah.
Did you live in Brooklyn or in New York City?
No, we actually ended up in Connecticut and
Uh-huh.
Massachusetts. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. It's great. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are just waiting for a few more people to jump on.
It's Dana. I'm eating, so I'll video me when you don't have to watch me chew.
Well, is it something good that we can all enjoy virtually?
It's an English muffin with peanut butter and chia and flax seeds.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I do that with, and then I put oatmeal and honey and make little energy balls with the peanut butter, oatmeal, flax
Ooh, that
seeds,
sounds good.
and chia. Yeah. How many people are going to the ACO CHAD conference, ATA conference?
I am Dana.
I am Kay.
Yeah, good.
Frog in my throat this morning.
Super, super.
I can't make it this year.
No, okay.
Oh,
I'll be there. This is Keith.
Keith, okay, wonderful. Well, we will have Kay and I and the Anne-Marie and the other programs committee members will have buttons on that say programs committee. So if you see one of us at the conference, make sure you come up and say hi. It's always nice after doing virtual stuff to actually physically meet everybody. So if you see us, make sure you say hi. And if you ever have any interest in joining, the programs committee, we're trying to launch some different programs. So we're always looking for new members to kind of jump on board and and help get some new programs up and ground. So if you have an interest, let us know as well.
Yeah, so Christine, I hope you mentioned, sorry for hopping on a little bit late here, but I'm hoping that you mentioned that we really want to create some programs that reflect the needs of our members.
I did not. Go ahead. You can
Okay,
continue.
yeah, so what we were thinking as a committee was perhaps having some, like a monthly business meeting with topics that are of interest to our members. But, that's just us thinking. We want to make sure that, we're really addressing your needs. So if there's something other than business topics that you're feeling a need for, or specific business topics that you're looking for help with to help us kind of create and build some programming, that would be wonderful.
Oh, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Anne-Marie, I'm going to switch over to the slides so that we can get going and honor everyone's time. So let me get into presenting mode.
Yes.
Okay.
So welcome. Welcome to our September case collaboration. We hope everybody had a wonderful summer. So case collaboration is free for members of ACO, and our goal is to provide collaboration and community for ADHD coaching approaches. If you're a guest today, thank you for attending, and we encourage you to become a member of ACO if you haven't already. Case collaboration is offered on the third Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. Eastern, so mark your calendars to join us. Upcoming topics include coaching clients around self-sabotage in October and helping our clients explore mindfulness in November. And in case you haven't heard, ACO is teaming up with ADA and CHAD to put on the International ADHD Conference in November. It is November 8th to 11th in St. Louis, Missouri at the Hyatt Regency. So if you are an ACO member or ADA or CHAD, there are discounts available to you. So contact those groups that you're a member of and get a discount to come. We'd love to see you there. So moving on to our next thing, we're learning together in this program and we're getting better and better. So we're refining how we do this, and we've gotten some wonderful feedback. Many people are indicating that this is a really valuable professional opportunity for growth. And we're also happy to receive some messages that helped us improve the quality of this experience. So we do value all feedback, and we appreciate it when people take the time to let us know what's going well and what we can do better. So as a group, we're learning and improving our use of this technology. So we have two main goals here: participation and great sound. And so in order for us to have great sound as we participate, because we don't want to just do a lecture type thing, we want people to give their input, and we've really gotten some great things by doing that. So let's just take a moment to go over some of the things that will help all of us to work together to meet both goals of participation and great sound. So when you move your cursor to the bottom of your screen, a black toolbar should appear. And there are three things that are important to us there. At the left corner, there's a microphone icon. Click the icon to mute and unmute yourself. So go ahead and try that right now. Notice that on the picture next to your name, you can see if you're muted or unmuted. And I think we just heard what happens when people don't mute each other. We get some feedback. It's that person's speaker hearing my voice and transmitting it through their microphone. So sometimes we get feedback and wonky sounds when that happens. So that's why we ask you to mute your line if you're not in a mode of participation at the moment, like speaking participation. We also found out that if you're joining us by phone, we finally know some codes for our phone participants. So *6 mutes and unmutes your line like an on-off switch. The other thing that we'd like you to do is you can participate in two different ways. So you can raise your hand or you can type in the chat. And by raising your hand, I know sometimes I go like this by default, but there's actually a technological way to do that. So go down to that black bar at the bottom of your screen, click participants. And that should still show, even though we've got Christine's screen. Yes, it does. Okay. Click participants and a panel will open at the side of your screen and you can see your name along with everyone else on the call. So do you see a button there where you can raise your hand? Okay, you can click that now and see how there's a hand that shows up next to your name. So click it again and your hand goes down. So if you've participated, please remember to put your hand down so we can see clearly who else is ready to participate and we don't call on you again and kind of waste our precious time. So I know it's hard to remember, but we'll try it together. Also, if you're joining us by phone, you can raise your hand too if you use *9. So use *9 to raise and lower your hand like an on-off switch. Another way to participate is to type in the chat. So along the toolbar bottom at the bottom toolbar again, click chat and a panel opens at the side of your screen. At the bottom, you should be able to see to, and you can see who you're writing your message to. Right now, it should say everyone. And so that means all participants on the call will see that in the chat. If you want to send it just to a presenter, you can, I think there's an option for that. Or you can type in a particular participant's name. And when you click enter, your question or comment will be sent. So we'll be monitoring the chat box too, and we'll bring that into the conversation as needed. Thanks, Dana. It is nice to be here. So glad to be gathering with you again today too. One last tip that solves 90% of sound quality issues, especially the echoes and feedback like I mentioned before, is for you to use a headset. because when the sound comes out of your computer speaker, it feeds back through your microphone, and that's where we get some of the echoes and feedback. So if the sound goes from the headset straight into your ears, it doesn't interfere with your microphone sound. Okay, and it's much cleaner and we get a good recording. So moving on. Today's opening word is different. So to receive a CCEU for your participation today, please email the opening word different along with the closing word to cceu@adhdcoaches.org. So that address is a little bit different than we've used before. So please send it to the new address. It's on your screen. And add that to the closing word, and we'll send you a CCEU for today. So for today's case collaboration format, we're changing it again just a little bit. Yes, Ruth asked, she heard me say difference, but the screen says different. Either is fine. Yeah, we're not sticklers on that. This is just something that ICF requires of us to have the opening and closing word to prove that people were here the whole time. So yes, close is good enough. So one of the feedback communications that we received is people were getting curious about the case the case scenarios that we created at the end of our slides. We often get carried away with conversation, like such wonderful things are elicited from our own client examples that we get into some pretty rich discussion. So for several months now, we've not gotten to the cases that we've provided or prepared ahead of time. And some people were getting curious about what some of those cases were. So today we'll have Kay lead our conversation with a little bit of background on today's topic, identifying and overcoming external obstacles, so that we have a common understanding of the terms we're using. She'll ask a little bit about experiences that we've had with our own clients, but then we'll move into some of the scenarios that we've created, and we'll experiment with that today and see how it goes, and you can give us some feedback about that if you like that format. So let's jump in. Kay, excuse me. Okay, let's get into our case collaboration, identify and overcome external obstacles.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. So nice to be with you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And so, as always, we like to have a shared language between coach and client. So we had some conversation when we were determining topics, and we realized that external obstacles are different from internal obstacles. So how would you, so we'd like to know from you briefly so that we can move on to the scenarios. How would you define the difference between external obstacles and internal obstacles? So the external obstacles to a client's success, just quickly, how would you define that? Just a few people. Now everybody's being careful. Well, some of the things that we talked about were things like your workplace, your environment. If you have sensory issues, your maybe other people in the environment can be external obstacles because of the sensitivity of people. At home, it could be what you're surrounded by. Sometimes that clutter and that kind of thing really frustrates people, and it's difficult for them. And so those are external objects as opposed to internal objects, which are, the internal objects are kind of more that anxiety, more that self-talk, those kinds of things. So what kinds of things, what kinds of obstacles in a person's environment or surrounding a person, not internal, but external, is what we want to talk about today. So shall we just move on to the next slide then?
Actually, Peter had his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Help me watch that because.
Yeah, I know it's hard to look for everything.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yep. So Peter, go ahead first. Oh, he's muted.
Environment. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Yeah, I unmuted you. Go ahead. Oh, now you muted yourself.
Other people in your environment. External.
Yep,
Definitely.
very nice, very
Mhm.
nice. And Dana, I know you had some examples.
Is Dana muted?
I was, sorry. I muted
Oh.
myself again because Kay, you said exactly what I was going to say.
Oh.
We're so good.
Yeah.
Great minds, Dana.
Anybody else?
Anyone else? Oh, I saw a hand for a minute. Adela.
Sometimes an external obstacle can be a situation. Something as simple as I twisted my ankle on the sidewalk on the way to work, or something like that. Just the flooding prevented me from getting out of my neighborhood, and it's valid to address those as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. Ruth, how about you? What would be an example that you could give?
Okay, yeah. I was thinking sometimes how small, in one way of looking at it, how small it can be. I was once working with a student who was very, very aware of the little clock I had on the table where we were sitting together that was ticking so softly that I personally I'd stopped noticing it, but it was really distracting them from their ability to fully engage with the coaching.
Wow. Isn't that amazing? Like
Yes.
what people can pick up and we just sometimes totally block out in our environments. Yeah, that's fascinating. We have somebody, is it Susel is the last name? Kathy?
She's muted.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute, but it's not working.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
No?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so I think for the students and a lot of the adults that I work with, any technology could be a huge obstacle because they're just drawn and almost addicted to their game, to keeping up chats, to send, oh, did I get mail? And every time they get a ding, what they were working on goes right out the window. And, you know, and everybody carries around a computer with them, right? And the young people I work with especially are so connected to their phone. So I think that's a huge obstacle. And even for some of my older clients, they get so distracted so easily, and then they get nothing done.
I agree. Thank you.
I like what Kathy said, because I was thinking also when Adela said things that happen. Due to the nature of our clientele, more things happen to them. There are more auto accidents, which will totally throw off your whole plan, or your sensitivity to the distractions. So, yeah. And I think Kat.
Yep.
So I think in terms of, I was thinking of something, but I thought, God, that's an internal and an external obstacle. So I was thinking in terms of what people might be saying to us, around us, outside in our environment, that's an external obstacle. But then I also think about, then that could also be an internal, because I'm in my mind thinking about what they might be saying, how they're already looking at me and all these other things. So both of those.
Good point. Anne-Marie.
I'm glad that Kathy brought up technology. Another aspect of that could be for someone who has to, let's say, make a presentation at work and they're not completely familiar with the technology. One of the obstacles might be the learning curve needed to actually do the project. So not leaving enough time to deal with both the tech and the content and.
Nice, nice. And I was just going to
And then once again, many steps involved in so much technology, and then with working memory.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just going to add, and I apologize because I've been trying to monitor everything. So if this has already been said, I apologize. But, you know, I think for some of our students, especially a blank sheet of paper can be an external obstacle for their writing. And I have a couple that have to have just the right pen so that it flows smoothly across the paper. And I'll be completely transparent. I have to have a mechanical pencil myself. Like, I can't stand the way a regular pencil writes. So, you know, I think we can even get to like all these little nitty gritty things when we're working with people. And I think a lot of people who aren't trained with, you know, as an ADHD or executive function coach wouldn't pick that up, that a blank piece of paper could actually paralyze somebody. I remember Barbara Luther saying, like, she has to have double spaces after a period in written documents because it just too visually, you know, and it's just too visually overwhelming to read it other ways, and then spacing between the lines. So we can just take these external obstacles and go on and on, which I think makes, you know, our coaching so much more challenging.
Excellent. So, is there anyone else? I think we got just an incredible amount of things that are external. And then I know it makes this more challenging, but I think we are gifted coaches. And so we also have that awareness many times to pick up on those things. So are we ready for the next slide? So once again, as coaches, I kind of segued into this, what are some of those signals? I'm going to move these boxes, I can't read. You might pick up that indicates your client is challenged by obstacles. Some of these external obstacles like workplace, school, home environment, workplace, school, home expectations, coworkers, as Peter said, and all those many things that you brought up. How would you pick up on the fact that somebody is being blocked by an external obstacle? Whoops, I saw a hand for a minute.
That's Kat.
Kat.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to, I'm looking at their body language. I'm looking at kind of the way they're talking, because a lot of times what you guys were, take Christine, for instance, when she's talking about her pencil, right? But in some way, a lot of times they're thinking that's kind of stupid, right? That's stupid. No one else does that. I'm not even going to mention that. That's so silly, right? It's just such a small thing, right? But you could tell by looking at them, whether it's their face, that distaste on their face or something about that, that something's going on. And so I kind of look at that and ask them about it. I said, I saw something happen, or I saw something with that. What is it about this? Tell me, whatever it is, right? That you can dig down into it, because there are things around. And I know in my calendaring system, some people, they all have different things about how they want a calendar. So I really like to look for that and see what's stopping them, what's holding them. And it might just be from their body language. Mm-hmm. They're not going to tell me, right?
Right. I think we have Peter as well.
Yes, I have the simplest one. That would be silence, as in, I wish I had $5 for every time I said, okay, what else are you looking at? Because they're not answering the question, and I can tell they're not just thinking, they are looking at their computer or some other object. Probably their computer, though, or their phone. So you can sense it because they don't answer your question.
Nice.
That's a good one, too. Yeah, one of our questions was, what verbal cues might they give you, or none, or or no verbal cue means something there, right?
Yes, exactly. Kathy.
Yeah, I worked with a very, very bright young man. He was 16, but he didn't do well in high school. But I think he was one of the smartest kids I ever met. And I asked him what got in his way. Why did he bomb out of high school? And he told me they chewed gum. They were all chewing gum.
Yeah.
Who? And he said the students, and I couldn't stand the noise. It just drove me insane. So he had sensory issues, which was the problem, you know, and I think a lot of our clients have these sensory issues and don't really bring them up or don't want to talk about it because they think it just makes them weird. So a lot of times when I work with people, I'll ask them, what kind of pen do you like to write with? How do you like to write? Is writing hard for you? Do you prefer the keyboard or can you write? Is that how you get your information? So tell me about that. What works best for you? And then, you know, I think the shape of your pen is really important. I have discussions. You know, I like a thick pen. I like a gel pen. What do you like? And they'll tell me. And they say, do you have those pens? No. I had one, but I lost it. Okay. Maybe you could order a box of those so you always have them, right? But that doesn't always, you know, happen.
Yeah. And I so appreciate, Kathy, you bringing up the chewing, you know, the gum chewing, because my daughter is incredibly sensitive to people eating noises. And I forget there is a term for that, for people that are hypersensitive to other people's eating noises. But I think a lot of the population isn't aware that that's a sensory issue, and something we have to keep, you know, in the back of our mind, that like sometimes she physically has to get up and leave the table if somebody is chewing too loud, and I have to allow for that, right? We've had to come up with coping strategies that she can use, so she's not appearing rude, but that she can meet her needs as well. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think, you know, it isn't as well known. So, you know, it's important that we always keep that in the back of our mind as a possibility.
And I think, you know, we can question them because usually they feel comfortable with us because we don't judge, and they can maybe gain some awareness that maybe they didn't even have before, to really dig into what externally distracts you or gets in your way.
Right, right. I know Janie had something.
Yes, Janine?
Oh, Janine, sorry.
Yes, so I was just thinking about the external environment component, you know, like parents, when that's an issue. And so kind of that body language piece, when if they happen to be in the room, like when you're first starting and you can sort of pick up on the fact that the kid is totally shutting down when mom and dad are talking, or asking, even with some of my older students whose parents aren't there, but obviously who have a big impact on them, and are saying, you know, they've got their voices, you know, well, my mom or dad thinks I need to be doing this. And so it just comes out as a little statement, but you can dig in and kind of figure out what's going on in that environmental piece that is an external factor in how they're conducting themselves or how they're making choices. Probably to avoid, you know, often it's to rebel or to not do that because it's so not what they want to do.
Yeah, very true, very true. Yeah, thank you very much. Peter, did you have something more to add?
Oops, no, I didn't.
How about you, Kat?
Oops, me too.
Oh, okay. All right. Then it looks like, Kathy, would you like to add any more?
I would just say, you know, pets can be a big distraction. As my cat keeps walking back and forth in front of the screen. You'll see her soon.
So sweet.
But it could be my dog. It could be, the other cat. I mean,
Yeah.
here she comes. Here we go.
Yeah, that can happen. And when I've Zoomed clients, that's happened too with them.
There she goes.
When you're doing virtual coaching, you can often see, especially in kids, because they're getting bombarded with texts and alerts on their computer all the time, you can actually see their face get brighter because the light is different when they receive.
Oh.
When they go to a different screen than when they're on like a Zoom. I can see every time that they're looking at something else on their screen other than me because it changes light on their face. So that's a kind of a signal I look at. As far as like, hey, are you getting distracted, and what else is going on? And you can actually see the eyes moving faster. So that's something that I look for when I'm coaching somebody virtually. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll have to look for that.
Watch for it. So I think we're ready to move on to the next slide, Kay.
Yes. Okay. So, of course, we like to focus on core competencies. You do get credit for taking this. So using the core competencies, how might a coach help a client grow in self-awareness around these obstacles? I think we got into that a little bit. We can identify, as Christine just said. Are you with me? Right? Is there something going on here? And then also, how might a coach engage the client to explore alternative ideas and solutions about what's getting in the way? We kind of talked about that too. It's like, how can we help them have that awareness? And then what tools or questions would you use? So what kinds of responses do we have for that?
And we want to keep these questions in mind as we move into those case scenarios.
Right.
So we want you guys to see these questions, how might you help the clients in these coming case scenarios grow in self-awareness around the obstacles? How might you engage the client to explore alternative ideas and solutions about the obstacle? And any coaching tools or questions, that you would use, please let us know, because we're going to jump right now into our first case scenario.
Right.
With these kind of ICF core competencies and PAC core competencies in mind.
Perfect. So, okay, so here we have client W is getting overwhelmed with answering emails at work. She notices that other people are answering emails during meetings and she can't do that. This is my client, so I'll speak to this. And then in the next few slides, I had kind of forgotten we'd like to ask for volunteers to read. She needs to maintain focus. I have 2 different clients who have said this. They really don't know when they're going to do their emails. And they have noticed other people are doing it during meetings. The work environment isn't providing her the time to answer emails. So she's overwhelmed, and she'll have days where she just kind of doesn't get anything done and the emails are piling up. How might you approach this client? Let's see. Our hands here. Who's got some great ideas? I'd love to hear them.
Maybe if we just go back to those original questions. So in this case, how might a coach help a client to grow in self-awareness around the obstacles?
We've got Peter and Kat again. Peter, go ahead. Whoops. Oh.
So the basic awareness that the ADHD brain is going to respond to emails and texts because that's the shiny object. And so the awareness has to be that, your brain is naturally going to be attracted to these. So what could you do to not have them bother you, which would, one thing would be to turn off the sound or whatever. But the awareness is that you will be drawn. We will be drawn to that shiny object, which is the ding ding or whatever that attracts us.
Wow, that makes a really good point, Peter. Actually, for my clients, it's not getting the emails done because they're work-related emails. But I think that is a really good point because I think that distraction, the minute they see an email, they think they have to answer it. And so that could be part of the issue, is that drawn to the minute you get it, you have to answer it. Catherine, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask you, Kate, so you're saying the other people are answering emails during the meetings because they can't do business emails either? They don't have time?
Well, that's probably true. I mean, why are they doing that?
Yeah, that to me would be, wow, sounds like something I would want to talk to my supervisor boss about, that all of this, I don't know. If no one else can do it, now they're interrupting meetings. But anyway, I just want to ask you that question. Thanks.
Well, that's a good question that I could do some more inquiry and find out. And that could also help the client if nobody's getting it done, she can go to her colleagues and say, maybe we need to approach our supervisor with this. Yeah. So that's a really good point. We got some more, Kathy?
Well, I would ask the client, what time are you getting into work? Are you getting there on time? Because often our clients struggle with getting to work on time because it takes a lot of organizational skills and an awareness of time. So if they're getting in, let's say they have to be there at 9, but they're starting at 9:20, 9:15, 9-ish. They like to say, I say, what time do you have to be at work? 9-ish. That's not a time. I can't really work with that. 9-ish could be 9:30-ish. Yeah. No, you have to be there at 9. So I like to say, okay, so you're coming from behind, trying to catch up all day. What if you got in 10 minutes early and tackled 3 emails, 3 of the easiest emails, and then noted highlighted the ones, I put a star next to it or asterisk, the ones that need more thought. Yes. And maybe you can find some time later in the day. Yeah. And how bad is your inbox? I mean, I've had some clients tell me 2,000 emails. So I said, well, how far back does that go? Well, forget about the ones from 6 months ago. Let's start fresh. Yeah. Don't go further back than a month. It's too much. Yeah. You just realized you haven't answered them. Yeah. That's not going to happen. Yeah. But I feel so bad. Well, that gets in your way too. That feeling of guilt. But little by little, you could do it. But I think they have to see the number, and they have to see where in their day they have some time. Do you have 10 minutes here? Do you have 20 minutes here? Do you have another 15 minutes here? So little by little, and keep track of how many you answer.
That is just excellent, Kathy. And I think then you also hit some of the internal, we're talking about external, but that's what she's dealing with, is all these emails. Then you hit the fact that internally it's shutting her down. But really, I think the idea of getting there early, because most of our adult clients at work are often slow processors, and it's just going to take maybe more hours in their day to get the same thing done. So just factoring that in and getting there early and doing that before all the distractions hit is excellent. Thank you, Kathy. You really covered a lot of really good points there.
Thank you.
And we have Adela.
A lot of it has already been said, and maybe I don't understand the situation perfectly, but I would celebrate and congratulate my client on her ability to monotask rather than multitask. Yes. She's actually doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's the only one that is actually focusing on the meeting. Yeah. So let's celebrate that fact that she is able to give her attention to what needs to be done in that moment, which for her is already a challenge. And then, going on again what Kat said, when you know, when can she do these emails?
Yes.
And you know, building on that whole time management piece, if she had to estimate how long it would take,
Mhm.
you know, how could you break that over a long period of time? When does she have time to do that type of? But you know, addressing the monotasking versus multitasking,
Yes,
is essential here.
yes, and pointing out she actually has a high level position, so pointing out the fact that it's probably a good thing, and those other people maybe don't need to pay as much attention to. Yeah, excellent. So, and I think, oh, we have lots of responses. So, Anne Marie, I'm sorry, were you done, Adela?
Okay, Anne Marie.
Yeah, so Kay, that's really helpful to know that she has a higher level position. That's really good for her because she's likely to have a little more control over carving out some of that time that an earlier participant was talking about. And I'm wondering too, and this is more systemic, it's not so much within her control, but like really, what's the effectiveness of all these meetings if everybody's sitting there on their phones?
Right.
You know, maybe inviting a conversation with the boss about that, just about the corporate culture.
Right.
But I'm curious too about her experience with the emails, if she's having a hard time with prioritization.
She is.
Yeah, so which ones are important to answer? And I find too, sometimes my clients and me both fall into, you know, responding to an email, we can get really lengthy with the reply.
Yes.
Of explaining or whatever. So just
Yes.
encouraging her to do some practice of trimming back. And
Yes, a lot of perfectionism there, I think, and wanting to do it just right, and maybe, you know, give the right response. And then there's also a question about which ones are important and aren't, which she's actually going to talk to her supervisor about, helping her prioritize, you know, which ones should I be responding to, because she doesn't know for sure which of those people are the most important, etc.
Yeah, and then to even broaden that out a little bit with prioritization, if there's so much to do in that job, if meetings are prioritized by the company, emails are prioritized by the company, then what else can go? Like, is there something that can be let go of to make more time for the emails?
Yeah. It can. I think the meeting with her boss is going to be really, really good. She actually has the option of hiring a help. So we've explored that too. She's got this concern, will they do it right? So, you know, you're getting into that perfectionism stuff. For that amount of money, will I find somebody who can do it? But she had reasons for not pursuing that, but now she's going to pursue it. But I think the best thing is she's going to talk with her boss, who I think is very supportive.
Yeah.
And Peter had something to say too, and I will finalize with something else she's going to do, which is going to be really good. Peter?
Yeah, very quickly, the lateness thing that Kathy mentioned is one of those things that we're the last people, those of us with ADD, that should be late, even though we are, because whenever we walk in late, we're overwhelmed by the stimulus going on. In my corporate job, when I got there an hour, you know, half hour early, my productivity for the day was so much better, just because it's hard for us to settle in when we're late, yet we're the ones who are late. Another idea is only doing emails at a couple definite times for the day.
Yes.
Because I remember so many days, and again, the immediacy of them, you spent your whole day responding to emails. And felt like, wow, I was productive today. But the thing is, your to-do list didn't get touched.
Yes.
So you didn't do one thing from your to-do list, but you felt like, you know, I did a lot of work today. But it's like, what percentage of it was really, you know, your as Anne Marie said, your priorities?
Yeah, so there's that poll.
Yeah.
Adela, did you have a comment? I see a hand up for Adela.
Yeah, I think she's fine. Yep.
Yeah. So actually, one thing she's doing, which is fantastic, that she decided to do last session, is she works for the government, so to admit her ADD, and she's, I've given her some information about getting or she's going to find out about the documentation and so forth. This is going to be very helpful. I think she's very valuable, and I think once they understand that, it's going to kind of set her day up much better. So I think that's fantastic that she is going to do that. Some jobs it's a good idea, some jobs it's not, but the government, it has been my experience, and it's her thought, they are more receptive to making accommodations than some bosses. So with that, I don't think I see any other hands. Should we move to the next scenario? Okay, so now we had an adult working. So I like it when other people read these. Do I have a volunteer to read this scenario? Keith. Keith and Janine both. So Keith, I saw you first. Go ahead.
All right. So client X is a college student trying to do homework in his dorm room. He often is distracted by technology or other people stopping by. He also finds that he gets tired doing homework and takes a nap. How might you approach this client?
Janine, I see you have your hand raised.
This sounds like half of my clients. It was interesting. Yesterday, this actual scenario kind of showed up, and the young man, he was, after telling me, that one thing that he found really important was to clear his desk so that he actually had a place to work, because his room was super messy. That he got to the point during our conversation of going, oh, if I can just train myself that when I'm sitting at my desk, that is work time. Like, my phone is not here, and like the physicality of actually sitting at my desk in front of my computer, maybe that can start to send a message. When I take a break, I actually have to get up from my desk and leave my room. So I thought that was really a great use of sort of environment, and we kind of built on that.
How did you create that awareness, Janine, with him?
He came to it himself. I think I asked, what's your space look like? Where do you do your work? And he started down the path of, well, the first thing I had to clean my room, and in my living circumstances this year, that's always really difficult for me, but I have roommates, and we've decided that Sundays will be our clean up the house day because we're all pretty messy, but I will use that time to keep my desk clear. Now, this was our first meeting, but I think it was just really building. He's a gymnast as well. So the physicality of like muscle memory, I really built on that, and sort of saying, you're talking about creating a body-mind connection, that when you're sitting at your desk, it's sending a message to your body and your mind that it's time to work. So he just built on that.
Nice, very nice. Yeah. I love it when they just fall into stuff like that.
Oh, he was at the end, he was like, oh my gosh, I came up with so many great ideas just sitting here.
Yes.
Yes, you did, because you started thinking about it, and before you weren't thinking about it at all.
Yes. That's the awareness, just the coaching process. Great.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Oops.
I think we have Kat as well. Thank you, Janine.
Yeah, that's great. I'll tag on to hers. I have lots of clients like this too. And we talk about how all of these, as I call them, annoyances, are pulling on your bandwidth, right? So the energy that I have to devote to this homework is now being decimated by all these other things that I'm trying to manage around me. So when I can eliminate these things in some way, I've got more to give to this, right? So in terms of, if I can't eliminate, then can I move somewhere else and take them out? Can I do whatever? So I always want them to know annoyances, the things around them that they think they should be able to manage, are literally pulling on the energy that they already have. And if it's very labor intensive for them anyway, because it's something I don't like, I don't understand, my energy's being depleted more just by working on this very hard thing. The other thing that I liked what I think Janine just said was the mind-body connection. So when my body is sitting on my butt for long amounts of time, I'm getting tired, right? So I have to, in some way, re-engage by standing up, planting my feet, feeling, doing something or another to recenter and then sit back down if I want to do that. But yeah, this tiredness, sometimes just being in proximity of a bed makes me tired. So anyway, I've had this a lot myself, Janine, and you had some good remarks. Thank you.
And so, Kat, it sounds like you are, and I think I know this because about you, is you're the expert of drawing this out, creating this awareness with the client and using tools like what's just one question that you would ask your client to help them with the awareness? Putting you on the spot.
So the awareness of the annoyances and stuff going, or the tiredness, which of the two?
Yeah. Either one.
I just like to use, I especially like to focus on the energy and then focus. So as I'm asking them, I'm saying, so have you noticed when you're not in that kind of environment that it seems easier, that you seem more energized? Do you notice as more things start coming in, that, and the same with the tiredness. What have you noticed when you're up and moving around? Do you see the same thing as when you're, do you feel more engaged when you're, we're just kind of drawing it out in terms of, remember when you're doing something else and you're not having this problem, what's going on, right?
Yeah. That is excellent. I just knew you would, and that gives us such a classic example of specifically using coaching tools and, to meet the competencies. So thanks, Kat. I knew that you'd be great at that.
Thank you.
And I think we have a few other people.
Yeah, Adela had her hand raised.
Yeah.
I've had this situation as well, and I had it actually very recently with a new college student. And so I asked him where he did work well in the past, and he said usually in a place that had very stiff sofas. And so he ended up, he came up with the idea himself. He said, I discovered when I went on the college tour, the business building, which is a graduate school, has this, it's a new building and it has this new study space. And I think I would be really inspired to work hard because I'd be surrounded by these business grad students, and the sofas are these stiff leather sofas, and I'm not going to fall asleep there. And he's tried that. This was a few weeks ago, and it worked for him. And the other thing that he discovered on his own, with some questioning techniques, of course, is that if he had an accountability buddy, he would stay awake. So he has somebody that he meets there at a certain time of day, and they just knock it out, 2 hours worth of homework. And that other person isn't necessarily in the same classes as he is, but at least they're both working at the same time. And he says that prevents me from wanting to sleep or from looking at my phone, and I definitely don't have anybody stopping by to say hello there because I don't know anybody.
Wow, excellent. I think we have 3 more people. So starting with Kathy.
So I'm a little directive with my students. I ask them initially, where do you study? The college students. And most of them will admit that they like to study on their bed in their dorm room. So I ask them, what do you think your brain knows about your bed? How does your brain relate to your bed? What does your brain like to do when it's in the bed? And they say it's sleep. Yeah, your brain relates to sleep in your bed. So where do you think you could go where your brain could think better? And I usually get the library. And then I ask, who else is in the library? Other students doing the same thing. And then I'll talk to them about using body doubles and finding the library that works best for them and claiming their spot in that library, a table table near the window, a table in the quiet study room, wherever it works for them, and go back to that spot. Get your, you know, if you can't get the exact chair at the table, get another chair at the table, but that will signal to your brain time to work. So I take it away from shame or what you're not doing and put it into their brain. And I tell them, just like when, you know, you're not really feeling that hungry and then you smell chocolate chip cookies. Oh my God, you're starving, right? Because your brain goes, food, right? So I take it into a brain base, and that's something I bring up right away.
Excellent. Very good. Peter?
Wow, lots of good stuff. I pretty much am even more directive and say, don't even think about your room and go to the library. You guys have all these nice questions. I just tell them, go to the library. Because, I mean, it's like what distractions are around you in your room? I mean, my gosh, the number's endless of what's right there. They can reach right out. They can go talk to their roommate. It's endless. The great thing about the library is your, you know, intention. You know, I always talk about the behavior. You know, the motivation is going, picking up your book bag, putting it on your shoulder, walking out the door with the intention of going to the library. And that behavior in and of itself gives them a way better chance of actually studying when they get there, because they have the intention of studying. That's the key.
Right.
And again, the motivation is to get yourself up and out of the room in order to go study. That's the behavior. That's the action that they're taking.
Right, and removing the obstacle. We have a couple more people, and we have just about 4 minutes, and I know Anne-Marie wants to give us some information. So, and I want to hear from Dana and Ruth, because I know they'll have excellent answers. So how do we do this? Anne-Marie, can you jump in and give us the final word, and then we can hear from our last two people in case somebody has to leave at the top of the hour?
Okay, so the closing word today is paths, P-A-T-H-S.
Thank you. And then we can, I assume we can go just a little over, but I wanted to make sure everybody got the word. So Dana.
If it's a college student, if they're tired, we have to look at sleep. And so I would say backtracking a bit and finding out, okay, what is happening with sleep? And also dorms are notoriously noisy. I don't work with college students, but I'm the mother of a college student. So I know what's going on. I mean, it's just wild. And also a lot of dorms have study rooms now in the dorms. They've got conference rooms or areas where it's quieter and they can go study. So maybe for safety issues, I wouldn't want my daughter walking home from the library at midnight, but we can get her to go to the conference room, the study room in the dorm, so it's safer. There's stuff going on there, so it's a little more stimulating, but it's not as distracting.
Excellent. And Ruth.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. I just wanted to offer another comment to Peter. I found myself very concerned about at least the way you conveyed it, Peter, that you actually told a client what to do. To me, that's not coaching at all. And I think that I understand your intention, but I think there's ways that we can support, encourage, nudge without telling.
I was kidding, frankly.
Oh, okay. It just really, because I often say to a student, you know, I know you seem to feel at this point that working in your dorm room is really useful. Sometimes say, would you be at all interested in doing an experiment? And for a few days, trying the library, so you could actually do a compare and contrast. You know, probably you already do this. I just wanted to just make sure that, you know, we were clear, because it just seemed, I know I didn't catch that you were joking. So
although I would say that in working with a lot of males myself, that I think the questioning is lovely, and I know that's coaching. But that said, if I ask 1,000 questions and the guy's still sitting in his room, at some point, maybe coaching is a little bit more like sports coaching, and they need more than a nudge. And that's just my belief. Like, I mean, all of the questioning is wonderful. But sometimes they need more of a push than that, frankly. So, I mean, it's almost like you want to ask all these questions because you want them to make the decision. I get that. That said, what matters is the behavior. So making sure that you ask a bunch of questions so that they do the behavior on their own, I get the philosophy of that. But the only thing that ultimately matters is the behavior, frankly. They gotta study. So where are they going to study?
Yeah, and I guess in my experience, when if the people that I'm working with, I feel like don't have long-term positive outcomes if they're only doing what they've been told to do, I think that I would just frame it slightly different. I would maybe present a challenge, which can be a fairly strong nudge.
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
That kind of thing. So
thank you.
Great. Yeah, interesting conversation. I think too, a lot has to do with the rapport. I get more directive sometimes when I really know the client. Sometimes I can even kind of really say something like that, and they like it. But I really know my client before that. But that was an interesting conversation, and also we do want to, go with the competencies, which are a lot about inquiry and questioning and that kind of stuff. So anyway, but excellent. Thanks to both of you. And Anne-Marie, I think we probably want to finalize. And I know Anne-Marie probably has some more good stuff to share with us.
Yeah, the biggest thing though is today's closing word, like we said earlier, is path. Oh, it doesn't even have to be the S on the end. Even if you put in pass, we're good. So please send that to the email address cceu@adhdcoaches.org. So we hope that you found today's sharing and collaboration beneficial and gave you some ideas to move into your next sessions with your next clients. So we encourage you to show up next month. We've got some of that internal obstacle business to work with, some self-sabotage and how to coach clients around that. In November, we'll be helping our clients explore and incorporate mindfulness techniques. So we would love to see you. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for your participation. Yes, good question. Keith just asked, do we have to re-register for next month? Yeah. Yes, you do, but Christine has been awesome about sending reminders and links to register. The process, I recognize, is still a bit complicated, and if you're here today, you somehow navigated the system. We are aiming to change that. ACO is getting a new web design in place, so we're hoping it'll be much smoother next time. Or not next time, but moving forward whenever that new website's in place.
And thank you all for making the effort. And thank you for your contributions and participation. And thank you for helping me with my client. I got all kinds of great ideas.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.